Have you ever whispered the words, "What if it happens again?" The quiet fear that creeps into your soul when the world starts to feel even a little bit normal again, that says, don't get too comfortable. Don't let your guard down. Don't hope too much. Friend, I want you to know you're not alone in those thoughts. Today we're going to talk about what it means to live with those fears and how to trust God again when your heart has been shattered. If you're grieving the death of your child and you want the steps that lead to believing with confidence that life is still worth living, then you're in the right place. Hello, I'm Teresa, a grief mentor. That's been where you are, and I teach grieving moms like you how to navigate life after child loss. If you're ready to take a step of courage and build a solid foundation to live with hope and purpose, then I'm here to teach you how. Are you ready for what God has for you? Then I'm ready to teach you. After Andrew died, my entire understanding of safety and faith was shattered. Nothing really felt safe anymore. I didn't realize that I was living in a state of fear until my husband Tony left one day to test drive his new wheels that he put on his Jeep. We were about a year and a half into our loss of Andrew, and I had watched him put the Jeep up on blocks in the garage and remove the wheels and add these things. I think they're called some kind of spacer that you put on Jeep tires. I was doing my own thing in the house, but I would periodically go out to the garage to see how he was doing and if everything was okay. He put all the tires back in place and came in to tell me that he was going to take it for a ride to make sure everything went well. I didn't think much about it until I was out for a walk, and I started to think about how long he'd been gone. I looked down at my watch, and it had been well over an hour. So I called him, but he didn't answer. So I texted him, but he didn't respond. I finished my walk, and as I walked into the garage, I suddenly felt a surge of fear take over me. Why wasn't he answering me? It had been close to 2 hours now, and he still wasn't answering his phone. This was not like him. He always answers, and if he can't answer, he'll send one of those automated texts that says, "I can't talk right now." So I searched the garage for his cell phone, thinking maybe he didn't take his cell phone with him. And then my mind went there. I started to feel my heart pound in my chest. What if he didn't get the wheels back on correctly? What if he flipped his Jeep and he's laying in a ditch somewhere and there's no one there to help him? Now, if you know my story, you know that we waited 3 long, agonizing days to get confirmation of Andrew's death. As a mom, I was wrought with despair, with the remote chance that he was alive, and he was laying in a field somewhere, and they just couldn't find him. That was the scenario that ran through my mind for a solid 3 days, because I felt completely helpless, because they wouldn't let me access the crash site. So in my mind, Tony was laying in a ditch, helpless, based on the trauma that I had suffered with Andrew's death. My fear escalated as I repeatedly called Tony's phone with no answer. I felt paralyzed, and I simply could not figure out what to do. I called my daughter, and she immediately came to the house. By this time, I was useless as far as rational thinking goes. The what if had completely taken over my heart and mind. Daniel, her husband, called the police, and Sarah reached out on social media. We texted friends asking if anybody had seen a black Jeep or Tony. Please let us know. We got in her van and we started to drive to look for him. He had mentioned something about going to Andrew's memorial. So we started that direction, which was in itself a trauma experience for me, reliving the moments of Andrew's death as we're driving that same direction. Andrew's memorial is at the airport, which is where I went that day of his accident. We couldn't find him, so we decided to come home. And as we were pulling in, guess who came driving up? When I seen him, I was so relieved, I just ran and embraced him. But then, okay, you know what happened next. Where were you? By now, 3 hours had passed. The police were out looking for him. All of our friends and family were praying. We were getting all these messages on social media. No, I haven't seen him. People were actively looking for a black Jeep in a ditch somewhere. Turns out Tony likes to bargain shop. He loves flea markets and those type of venues where he can find what he calls treasures, where he finds pieces of furniture that he can restore into beautiful pieces again. The cell service was weak where he was, and he didn't get any of the calls. I was so relieved that he was okay, I couldn't be mad. Okay, well, maybe I was a little mad. I was completely exhausted the rest of the day. Do you live in the land of the what ifs? I have so much to teach you today. Point number 1, fear is a trauma response, not a lack of faith. After child loss, fear becomes embedded inside of our bodies. It's not just a fleeting emotion. It's a full body alarm system that can see danger lurking about. You're not overreacting, friend. You've lived through the unthinkable. Your mind and heart are doing what they believe they must do to protect you from the pain. Remember how I've taught you how our brain is wired with that negativity bias because it is there to protect us. That's the way God made us. But fear, as real as it feels, is not always rooted in truth. As an example, my story. But it does tell you, you can't trust God again. It whispers, He let this happen once. He might let it happen again. Friend, that is trauma speaking, not truth. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. Psalms 56:3. Notice that David says here, not if, but when I am afraid. God never said that we wouldn't be afraid, friend. He's not asking you to pretend. He simply invites you to trust Him and invite Him in the middle of your fear. Your fear doesn't disqualify your faith. You can tremble and trust at the same time. That day when Tony was out of pocket, as my dad used to say, I couldn't stop thinking about the 3 Hebrew children. Remember that story? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? They would not bow down to Nebuchadnezzar's God, and he threatened to burn them alive if they didn't. When they refused, he bound them with rope, and he turned the furnace up 7 times hotter, and he said, I'll give you one more chance. In response, they said to Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown in the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power. But even if He doesn't, we want to make it clear to you that we will never serve your gods or worship the golden statue that you've set up. You can read that story for yourself in Daniel chapter 3. They were human, just like you and me. And they didn't know what the outcome would be, but they trusted God regardless. Did I have the faith of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego the day Tony disappeared, and I didn't know the outcome? Well, I was trembling with fear, that was for sure. Did I still have faith that regardless of the outcome, I would still serve the one true God? I believe the answer to that is yes. He took me to that story immediately after that event to remind me that my faith is not in my own strength. Did it feel good in that moment, those 3 hours that I did not know if Tony was alive or dead? No, it did not feel good. But now I recognize what a trauma response is. And it has allowed me to understand that we as humans can and will experience fear. God does not expect us to be fearless, friend. He doesn't expect us to act like we're something we're not, to put on a front for everybody to see. No, friend, God looks at our heart. But He does want us to realize that His power is made perfect in our weakness. In times like these, I whisper a prayer. Jesus, I am so afraid, but I want to trust you. Please help my unbelief. Point number 2, what ifs are a lie that rob your present? What if it happens again? That thought feels protective, but it's really paralyzing, just like I was in the garage that day. It tricks you into believing that living in constant fear will somehow shield you from the pain. But what it actually does is steal the peace and presence of the moment of the day that you're living. And you end up reliving the past while dreading the future, completely missing the moments right in front of you. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Matthew 6:34. God is not in your what ifs. He's in your right now. The pain of loss already has stolen so much from you. Don't let fear take your present too. When you catch yourself spiraling into fear, stop and say out loud, Lord, no weapon forged against me will prevail. Isaiah 54:17. And then ask him, please take this fear from me and replace it with your peace. Point number 3, God never promised a pain-free life, but what he does promise is his presence. Let me be honest. This is the hardest truth for grieving moms to reconcile. God didn't stop it from happening. So how can I trust him now? The enemy uses this question to twist God's character and to plant doubt that God is not good, that he doesn't care, that he's not safe. But Scripture shows us something deeper. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalms 23:4. It doesn't say, even though I avoid the valley. It says, through the valley. Because life on this side of heaven will include sorrow, friend. But make no mistake about it. You are not walking alone. You don't have to trust that life will be easy. You trust that God will be enough, even if life gets hard again. He didn't promise to prevent every heartbreak. He promised to carry you through every valley. Here's a prayer that you can pray. God, I don't understand your ways, but help me trust your presence more than I fear the pain. Point number 4, let go of control, but don't let go of hope. After loss, it's natural to want control. We want to manage every outcome, anticipate every danger, and never let our guard down again. But the truth is, friend, you can't control the future. And living in constant fear, bracing for the worst, it's not protecting you, friend. It's actually hurting you. And more than that, it's keeping you from reaching that place we all long for. And that is peace for our hearts and minds. And friend, the only place that happens is in his presence. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. 1 Peter 5:7. Casting your anxiety, by the way, isn't a one and done. It's a daily, sometimes moment by moment surrender. It's waking up in the morning and saying, Lord, I trust you, not because I feel brave, but because I believe you're with me right here in this moment. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up hope. It means laying it down at the feet of Jesus, who loves you more than you can ever begin to imagine. Write this down. I don't have to fear the future because God is already there holding it for me. There are no surprises to God. If you're tired of living in fear of what might happen, I want to personally invite you to book a grief mentor session. Come sit with me and let's ask God together to meet you in your fear and to bring peace where panic has lived for far too long. Let's get you started on a path that leads to peace in the midst of the storm, where his power is made perfect in your weakness. Friend, if you're living in the tension of trusting God again after child loss, I want to remind you, God is not disappointed in your fear. He's not rushing you through your grief journey, and he is not asking you to be fearless. But he is asking you to come honestly, to let him hold what you can't, to whisper even through your tears, Lord, I trust you. Please help my unbelief. And that's all I have for you today. So until next time, take care.